Every morning, when you open your eyes, what becomes your first step? Do you rush to the bathroom, reach for a glass of water, or perhaps grab a cup of fragrant coffee? Have you ever considered that this first action, which most of us do automatically, can silently harm your kidneys? After 20 years in nephrology, I reached an unexpected conclusion. The main cause of kidney dysfunction lies in morning habits. The first 30 minutes after waking are especially critical, as our actions can impact kidney health for years to come. Last week, Professor Lidzea, who is 74 years old, shared his story with me. He realized that for many years he had performed 4 morning actions that seemed completely harmless. However, it was precisely at the age of just over 50 that his kidney function sharply declined. Only by changing his habits did he manage to restore the youth of his kidneys over 10 years, now functioning 20 years younger than his passport age. Friends, this story contains facts that can save your life. If you watch it to the end, you'll understand how important it is. Ignoring these recommendations may cause you to regret it for the rest of your life. According to national statistics, 1 in 9 adults suffers from chronic kidney disease, and horrifically, 95% are unaware of their condition. The kidneys are often called the silent organ. Their functions can be impaired by half without any symptoms. When swelling, shortness of breath, or foamy urine appear, it means the process has gone too far, and it is no longer possible to reverse it. It is believed that the main causes of kidney failure are diabetes and hypertension. This is true, but in reality, it is the wrong morning habits that become the starting point for most diseases. An example is the story of 69-year-old Mr. Kim, who had followed the same morning routine for many years. Suddenly, his legs began to swell severely, and an examination revealed that his kidney function was only 30%. The doctors insisted on urgent preparation for dialysis, but instead, he changed just 4 of his morning habits, and a true transformation occurred. Think, right now, millions of nephrons, tiny filters in your kidneys, are dying one by one, and none will ever be restored. If you do not change your actions today, in 10 to 20 years, you may find yourself in a situation similar to Mr. Kim. So, what are these habits? The first is that drinking immediately after waking can be a real poison for your kidneys. The second is that some breakfast dishes, which many cannot imagine their morning without, slowly but surely destroy the kidneys. The third is actions that people often overlook, citing their busyness, and these lead to a halving of kidney function. The fourth habit, which may seem beneficial and healthy, actually causes serious harm to the kidneys daily, as if they are undermined by a grenade. Professor Lee emphasizes that the first 30 minutes after waking up are crucial, as this period sets the conditions for kidney function for the next 24 hours and, in the long term, for a lifetime. Friends, if you knew that your habits could lead to an unnoticed death, would you continue to live this way? Today we will closely examine the 4 main morning enemies of the kidneys and suggest new habits to help maintain health. Do you know that the first thing most people reach for in the morning is a cup of coffee? Millions start their day with it, and it turns out to be the first and most treacherous enemy of your kidneys. Some might think this is an exaggeration, but friends, this is not about habit for pleasure, but a matter of life and death. Allow me to tell the story of a woman, a lady who was 67 years old. For 30 years, she woke up every morning at 6, went to the bathroom, and then gulped down a mug of black coffee. She took pride in this morning ritual, but one day she was taken to the intensive care unit. Why? Caffeine on an empty stomach instantly constricts blood vessels, particularly squeezing the capillaries that nourish the kidneys. The volume of blood passing through them decreases by almost a third. The kidneys find themselves in a state of suffocation. This is just the beginning. In response to stress, they release the hormone renin into the blood, which raises blood pressure by 20 to 30 units. As a result, the most fragile of the million kidney glomerular filters begin to rupture, and they will not be able to recover. Another story concerns Mr. Pak, who is 73 years old. For 20 years, every morning he drank a double espresso on an empty stomach. One day he noticed that his urine had become very foamy. An examination revealed that it contained a lot of protein. This meant that the kidney filters had deteriorated so much that they could no longer retain essential protein molecules. But that's not all. Caffeine sharply increases the excretion of calcium and magnesium in urine. Imagine, after drinking a cup of coffee on an empty stomach, you lose 3 times more calcium than usual. These minerals accumulate in the kidneys and form stones. Did you know that about 60% of kidney stones form this way? And now, even more alarming facts. ordinary soluble coffee with sugar and cream, which seems less aggressive to many. Mrs. Chen, who was 65 years old, enjoyed drinking 2 servings of this beverage every morning. She believed the sweetness gave her energy, so it was good for her. But in reality, this coffee was much more dangerous. Sugar and artificial sweeteners sharply raise blood glucose levels, overload the kidneys, and soon a serious complication of diabetes develops: diabetic nephropathy. Remember, each cup of coffee on an empty stomach is a small explosion inside your kidneys. Caffeine activates the adrenal glands, resulting in cortisol and adrenaline entering the bloodstream. These hormones further constrict blood vessels, promote inflammatory processes, and damage tissues. By 7 to 9 in the morning, cortisol levels reach their peak. If coffee is added by this time, its amount can increase up to 5 times the norm, and excess cortisol begins to directly affect kidney cells, causing inflammation and fibrosis, leading to tissue stiffness. This is especially dangerous for the elderly. In young people, caffeine is eliminated from the body in about 6 hours. However, after 60, this process can take from 12 to 18 hours. This means that a morning cup of coffee can continue to negatively affect your kidneys until late evening. Even if you don't feel any problems right now, rest assured, the process of deterioration is already underway. And when the first symptoms appear, restoring health will be extremely difficult. So choose health. Give up coffee in the mornings. But this is just the first of 4 habits that can harm your body. The next habit is even more shocking. It is something that is hard to imagine a traditional breakfast without, especially in our culture. It is about hot soup. Imagine that on the table of most people in the morning, there is a plate of hot soup. For some, it is shi. For others, borscht. For some, rasolnik, or just noodles in broth. It seems that without this, a Russian person finds it hard to envision the morning. But do you know that this bowl of soup becomes poison for your kidneys every day? Take, for example, Mr. Kim, who is 71 years old and has lived his whole life in a coastal town. Every morning, he ate 2 bowls of broth made from fish and soy sauce. Salted cabbage and pickled fish were part of his daily diet. One winter, his legs swelled so much that he couldn't wear shoes. In the hospital, doctors were shocked. Kidney function had dropped to 20%. The creatinine level in the blood turned out to be 5 times higher than normal, and the diagnosis was ruthless: a lifetime diet. Do you know how much salt is in a bowl of soup? In shi or borscht, about 5 grams, and in a bowl of noodles with broth, 6 grams or more. The World Health Organization recommends that an adult should not exceed 5 grams of salt per day, so 1 bowl of soup already surpasses the daily limit. What happens in the body? The sodium level in the blood rises sharply, and to balance this concentration, the body starts retaining water, leading to an increase in blood volume. The pressure spikes, and eventually the small vessels in the kidneys cannot withstand this pressure and burst. But the most terrible thing is that salt accumulates in the kidneys. Thus, Mrs. Cho, who is 68 years old, has been eating noodles for breakfast for 20 years and always drinks the broth to the last drop. In her kidneys, sodium crystals formed, gradually turning the organ into solid stone. In medicine, this is called salt kidneys, and there is no turning back. Don't think that if the soup isn't too salty, it's safe. Even light broths made from seaweed or mushrooms can be a sodium bomb. Store-bought cubes and packaged broths are a true mix of salt, sodium glutamate, and chemical flavor enhancers. These substances directly harm kidney cells, causing inflammation. Even those who make broths from fish or meat bones find themselves trapped. Anchovies and herring contain high amounts of sodium. From a dozen small fish, up to 3 grams of salt can leach into the broth, and you don't even realize how much you're consuming. The destruction mechanism is simple. Sodium penetrates kidney cells, causing them to swell, compressing each other and the vessels. This leads to disrupted blood flow, and the tissues begin to die. In their place, a hard scar tissue forms, squeezing the kidney, making it shriveled and useless. Friends, if you eat broth soup every day, in 10 to 20 years, you will find yourself in the center of dialysis. Today, everything seems normal, but the process is slow and relentless. And the most insidious part is that many believe they drink soup for health, but this is self-deception. Your kidneys lose their chance for a long life with every sip of salty broth. And if you think this is the limit, you are mistaken. The third habit is even more dangerous. It is what we perceive as harmless or even beneficial. But in reality, every morning, it plunges a knife into your kidneys. Do you know how many people start their day without drinking a drop of water? Some rush to work, some don't want to go to the bathroom again, and some just aren't used to it. But this seemingly small thing sets a bomb under your kidneys every day. The story of a 66-year-old lady is illustrative. Throughout her life, she preferred tea over water. In the mornings, she drank barley or corn tea, believing that water was tasteless. During the day, she drank a maximum of 1 or 2 glasses of pure water. Last summer, she was suddenly seized by such pain in her lower back that an ambulance had to be called. It turned out that 3 large stones had formed in her kidneys, the largest being the size of a chicken egg. The operation cost over 300,000 rubles, and her kidney functions never fully recovered. Why did this happen? Let's figure it out. While we sleep for 7 to 8 hours, our body loses moisture. We breathe, sweat, and no new water comes in. In the morning, our blood becomes thick, like sticky soup. And when this thick blood tries to pass through the tiny vessels of the kidneys, the strain is enormous. The kidneys, in a state of dehydration, begin to conserve every drop. They concentrate urine to recycle water. It is at this moment that salts and minerals clump together into crystals, forming stones. A small crystal grows over time, turning into a boulder capable of blocking the ureter. Now imagine chronic dehydration. Mr. Chan, 72 years old, has drunk little water throughout his life, quenching his thirst with juices or sweet soda. At 60 years of age, his kidneys began to shrink, wrinkle, and harden. Gradually, the organ's function declined, but he felt nothing. By the time he noticed, it was already too late. Why is dehydration so deadly? With a lack of water, the concentration of toxins in the blood sharply increases. The kidneys are forced to filter this toxic cocktail, straining to the limit. Their cells die one by one, replaced by scar tissue. Thus, the kidneys begin to turn into stone formations. But that's not all. With a lack of fluid, circulation worsens. The kidney tissues do not receive the necessary oxygen. Cells begin to suffer from oxygen deficiency and die. In medicine, this phenomenon is called ischemic kidney damage, and it is irreversible. Another pitfall is caffeinated drinks. Mrs. Khan, who is 69 years old, was sure she was drinking enough fluids. In the morning, she had coffee and then green tea. However, these drinks only worsened her dehydration, as caffeine acts as a diuretic, causing her to lose more fluid than she gained. It creates a vicious cycle. The main threat of water scarcity is the concentration of toxins. Without liquid, they do not dilute, settle in the kidneys, and cause inflammation. Chronic inflammation leads to fibrosis. The kidneys become hard and dead. Remember, every morning, until you drink a glass of water, millions of filters in your kidneys gradually become clogged. You don't feel it today, but in 10 years, you could find yourself on the operating table. Yes, this is reality, and especially for the kidneys, this is a condition for survival. But there is another habit that is no less dangerous. Many consider it fashionable and beneficial. It is the complete absence of breakfast. This is the third blow to the kidneys. How many people do not eat breakfast in the morning at all? Some rush to work, some strive to lose weight, while others simply do not feel hungry. Currently, it is popular on the internet to talk about the benefits of intermittent fasting, and many proudly skip breakfast, believing they are doing themselves good. But do you know that every day you are bringing your kidneys closer to death? The example of Mr. Kim, who is 70 years old. 5 years ago, he decided to improve his health and adopted a regimen where he did not eat for 18 hours, starting from 7 in the evening until his first meal at 11 in the morning. At first, he felt light and was joyful. But after a couple of years, he developed alarming symptoms: dark urine and night leg cramps. Tests showed that his blood urea nitrogen and creatinine levels were 3 times higher than normal. His kidneys were working at their limit. Why is this happening? When the body goes without food for more than 16 hours, it enters emergency mode. Muscle tissue begins to break down for glucose, leading to the release of a large amount of nitrogenous waste and toxins. The kidneys are under 5 times more strain than usual. This is the story of Mrs. Pak, who is 67 years old. She decided to follow the 1 meal a day system. She fasted all day and in the evening had a hearty dinner, mainly consisting of meat. This was a real stress for her kidneys. For 23 hours, they worked in a state of starvation, and suddenly a surge of protein and glucose overwhelmed them. The pressure rose sharply, and the filters could not handle the load. Ketone bodies formed during prolonged fasting posed a danger. These are acids, and to neutralize them, the kidneys strain to their limits. Mr. Lee, who is 75 years old, fasted for 18 hours daily. His ketone levels reached a critical point. Acidic blood was literally eroding the kidney tissues, causing irreversible damage. But that's not all. During starvation, a person loses not only food, but also water from the products, which can account for up to 30% of the daily norm. As a result, chronic dehydration develops, posing a threat to the kidneys. Another blow is hormonal imbalance. Skipping breakfast causes cortisol levels to rise rapidly, and the body perceives this as an emergency situation. Under the influence of cortisol, blood vessels constrict, inflammation occurs, and the kidneys begin to deteriorate from within. Let's consider the case of Mrs. Yoon, who is 73 years old. She hadn't had breakfast for 3 years. At first, she felt a surge of energy, but soon her legs began to swell severely, and her shoes no longer fit. Tests showed that her kidney filters were damaged, and protein was leaking with her urine. It's important to understand that not all types of intermittent fasting are equally dangerous. For young and healthy people, it may provide temporary benefits. However, for those over 60, with weakened muscles and reduced recovery abilities, a prolonged absence of breakfast can have serious consequences. And the most frightening thing is that many believe they are strengthening their health, while in reality, they are harming their kidneys. There is another enemy, equally dangerous. These are products that many consider convenient and quick for breakfast. In fact, they are silent killers of the kidneys. Many believe that breakfast should be quick and simple. Some grab a sandwich with sausage or ham, some eat a bun with jam, while others pour milk over sweet cereal. The modern pace of life dictates simplicity and speed. But do you know that such convenient breakfasts slowly but surely destroy your kidneys? Here is the story of Mrs. Kava, who is 68 years old. For 20 years, she bought the same ready-made ham sandwich from the store. She thought it was quick, tasty, and convenient. However, during the next medical examination, it was revealed that her kidney function had decreased by almost half, and her blood levels were at a critical level. What is the reason? It's the phosphates, additives that saturate processed meat. One piece of ham can contain 10 times more phosphorus than natural meat. These artificial compounds instantly attack the kidneys, and in an attempt to eliminate the excess phosphorus, the filters become overloaded and gradually deteriorate. Now about preservatives and colorants. Mr. Chan, who is 71 years old, fries 2 sausages every morning. As a result, sodium and other substances used to preserve color and flavor clogged his kidney vessels, leading to thrombosis and the death of entire areas of kidney tissue. Buns and sweet pastries also pose a serious threat. Mrs. Kim, who is 65 years old, ate a cream bun or a pastry with bean paste every morning. Trans fats added to dough make the membranes of kidney cells rigid, ultimately preventing nutrients from entering, leading to cell death. As for the cereal, Mr. Lee, who was 74 years old, was convinced he was making a healthy choice by eating cornflakes every morning. But in reality, they were the cause of serious problems. It's all about fructose syrup, a cheap sweetener that is generously poured over such products. It is absorbed dozens of times faster than regular sugar and significantly burdens the kidneys. And the hidden salt, which has a sweet taste, contains whole grams of sodium. For example, a cream bun can contain up to 2 grams of salt, and a bowl of cereal can contain up to 3. Combined with soups and other foods, this can easily exceed the daily norm by 3 times. Some believe that sugar substitutes are safer. Mr. Pak, who is 72 years old, was choosing sugar-free products, but with artificial sweeteners like aspartame and saccharin. As a result, these additives led to kidney cell damage. Chemical substances were destroying DNA, causing inflammation, and even increasing the risk of tumors. That's not all. Processed foods often contain preservatives, such as sorbic acid. They help maintain freshness but can accumulate in the kidneys, causing chronic poisoning. Plastic packaging releases bisphenol A, a substance that disrupts the hormonal system and hinders the kidney's ability to regulate pressure. The elderly are most adversely affected by such toxins. While you are young, the liver and kidneys handle toxins more effectively, but with age, this ability decreases significantly. This means that the same piece of sausage that posed no issues before 60 will be much more harmful. Keep in mind, a bun, sausage sandwich, and a liter of cereal for breakfast is an unsafe choice. It's a hidden blow to your kidneys. You won't feel anything right away, but after 10 to 20 years, the accumulated harm can lead to serious consequences. And that's not all. There is another morning enemy of your kidneys that many consider useful and necessary. These are medications and supplements that people take for prevention or pain relief first thing in the morning. Many believe that if they take a pill and the pain goes away, everything is fine. Some, waking up with a heaviness in their body, immediately reach for painkillers. Others take anti-inflammatory drugs for years due to joint pain. Some have a habit of adding vitamins or health supplements to their morning routine. But it is these morning pills that often become silent killers of the kidneys. The story of Mr. On, who is 76, is simply shocking. For 30 years, he took an anti-inflammatory drug for arthritis every morning, buying it over the counter and taking 3 pills a day. In the end, he spent over 1,000 rubles in a month. One day, his body started to swell severely, and he found it hard to breathe. At the hospital, doctors discovered that his kidneys were almost destroyed. Why did this happen? The fact is that substances like ibuprofen and naproxen cause the blood vessels in the kidneys to constrict, reducing blood flow by 70%. The organs lack oxygen, and the cells begin to suffocate. Now, the story of Mrs. So, who is 73 years old. She suffered from headaches and took 2 aspirin tablets every morning. This drug directly destroyed mitochondria, the energy stations of kidney cells. The cells lost their ability to produce energy and died. It is especially dangerous to take painkillers on an empty stomach. Mrs. So, 70 years old, always took her pills in the morning before breakfast. In her stomach, these substances reacted with the acidic environment, turning into even more toxic compounds. The poisons formed as a result directly entered her kidneys and literally corroded their filters. How are things with vitamins and dietary supplements? Mrs. Can, who is 67 years old, took glucosamine and chondroitin to support her joints. It seemed that these were natural and safe remedies, but lead and mercury were found in her blood, heavy metals that entered the body through poor quality supplements. These substances accumulated in the kidneys, causing chronic poisoning. Even more dangerous were the herbal infusions. The lady, who was 71 years old, mixed a powder of Chinese herbs in water every morning, recommended to her for improving kidney function. However, this remedy contained aristolochic acid, a potent poison. As a result, the kidneys began to fibrose, shrink in size, and cease functioning. Even vitamins can pose a danger. Mr. Choi, who is 68 years old, took 3 grams of vitamin C daily to maintain his immunity. However, excessive doses of this vitamin turned into oxalic acid crystals in the kidneys. Eventually, large stones formed that blocked the ureter, and he required surgery. There is also the story of Mr. Pak, who is 74 years old. Every morning he took diuretics, leading to excessive fluid loss and dehydration, which in turn destroyed his kidneys. But what if all these means were combined? Mr. Chon, who is 72 years old, took 8 different medications every morning for diabetes, pain relief, and supplements. These substances interacted with each other, forming new toxic compounds that negatively affected his kidneys. And remember, the longer you take medications, the higher the risk. Even simple cold powders or fever reducers contain substances like paracetamol, which accumulate in the kidneys with regular use and destroy them. Yes, pills can relieve pain, but they take away your kidney health. However, there is good news. All of this can be changed. You just need to properly organize your morning habits. Later, I will tell stories of people who managed to restore their kidney health through simple but revolutionary lifestyle changes. Friends, the most amazing thing is that you can change your situation too. Even if your kidneys have already suffered, you have a chance to stop this process and turn it around. And real proof of this is the stories of various people. For example, let's take the story of a gentleman who is 78 years old. 2 years ago, his creatinine level rose to 4.2. The doctors told him to prepare for dialysis, as the norm is up to 1.2. This meant that his kidneys had almost completely lost their function. His family accepted his condition, and he himself lost hope. But at the last moment, he decided to try to change his morning habits. The first thing he did was slowly drink a glass of warm water every morning right after waking up at a temperature close to his body. Neither cold nor hot, but just right for easy absorption. He drank it not in one gulp, but in small sips over 5 minutes, which provided gentle and safe hydration for his kidneys. Secondly, he completely gave up coffee. Instead, he started brewing barley or corn tea and drank it only half an hour after meals. No caffeine on an empty stomach. He changed his breakfast. Instead of salty soups, he started making light vegetable broths without salt, adding seaweed and anchovies for flavor. He carefully rinsed the sauerkraut before meals to remove excess salt. He completely excluded processed foods. He set his golden 30 minutes. In the first half hour after waking up, he filled his stomach with nothing but water. At that time, he was doing light exercises and breathing techniques, which improved blood flow to the kidneys and gently activated his body. After 3 months, his creatinine level dropped to 3.8. In 6 months, to 2.9, and in a year, to 2.1. What was considered impossible happened. He no longer needed dialysis. There is another story. Mrs. Yoon, 74 years old, suffered from severe protein in her urine. Foam rose in a column. Every morning she took painkillers. When she completely stopped taking the pills and switched to natural methods like warm compresses, light gymnastics, and massage, the situation changed dramatically. 6 months later, tests showed that the protein had disappeared. A very important moment was the proper consumption of water. Mrs. Yun calculated the necessary amount using the formula, 15 milliliters per kilogram of weight. Weighing 60 kilograms, she drank about 900 milliliters of water in the morning over 2 hours, dividing it into portions of a glass every half hour to relieve her kidneys and ensure their stable hydration. Mr. Kim, 71 years old, went even further. Every morning he checked the color of his urine. Dark meant dehydration. Light yellow was normal. Clear was too much. This is how he regulated his water intake. Another important point was breakfast time. After drinking water, he waited at least 30 minutes before eating. During meals, he never drank liquids to avoid diluting the digestive juices. Only an hour after breakfast would he allow himself tea. And surprisingly, all these people gradually normalized their blood pressure. For when the buds recover, they begin to properly regulate blood pressure. The conclusion is clear. Everything starts with small steps. None of them changed everything at once, but each began with small efforts and showed persistence. It was persistence and regularity that became the key to success. Thank you for your time. Now, the most important thing. After 40 years of working with patients, I've realized one thing. The first 30 minutes after waking up determine how the rest of your life will go. Every morning, upon opening your eyes, you make a choice. To drink coffee or a glass of water, to eat salty soup or a light salt-free breakfast, to take painkillers or choose natural recovery methods. These seemingly insignificant decisions will determine in 10 to 20 years whether you will end up in a dialysis center or enjoy a healthy old age. I have seen many patients who fully restored their kidneys. They were united by one belief. They perceived the first 30 minutes of morning as golden time for the kidneys and strictly adhered to this rule. During this time, they allowed nothing harmful into their bodies, choosing only what cleanses and strengthens the kidneys. The story of Mr. Choi, who is 75 years old, became a symbol for me. 5 years ago, he was given a serious diagnosis, terminal stage kidney failure. He prepared for the inevitable, but instead decided to change only his morning. Every day at 5 in the morning, he would get up, drink a glass of warm water, have a light salt-free breakfast at 6, and go for a walk at 7. This simple routine has accompanied him for 5 years. And surprisingly, during the last examination, the age of his kidneys was found to be 20 years younger than his actual age. Today, he feels like a young man. You can also start changing your life tomorrow. No complicated schemes, expensive medications, or special conditions. Just remember 3 simple steps. Right after waking up, drink a glass of warm water in small sips. In half an hour, have a light, unsalted meal. Avoid coffee and painkillers on an empty stomach. These 3 simple habits can change the state of your kidneys and your life. In a month, you will feel lightness. In 3 months, you will notice that your urine has become clear. In 6 months, your blood pressure will normalize, and in a year, your blood tests will change drastically. However, the main thing is regularity. Doing something once will not yield results. It will take at least 3 months for your body to start changing, and a year to solidify the results. The kidneys are the slowest recovering organ, but if they begin to heal, health will be with you for many decades. And remember, the kidneys are much more important than you can imagine. The heart can be restarted, but the kidneys cannot. They can only be replaced, or one can live on dialysis. But all these terrible consequences can be prevented if you take care of your kidneys in the first 30 minutes of the morning. Share your experience. Tell us how your life changed when you altered your morning habits. Your story might help others. And to help more people maintain their health, don't forget to share this video with loved ones. Perhaps your small step will save someone's life. Soon we will see each other again, and I will share even more useful information for maintaining health.